Thank you. Thank you. Yes. In spite of the harsh realities that my journey may reveal, just know that in the end it was a celebration of life and of hope, which must spring eternal from the human condition, or else we are doomed as a species. I found that hope, and thank God I did, in books. But to get to books is another question. In fact, it's a tale of two cities. You'll see Alexandra, where I grew up. This was 1 square mile, still is, and there were about 200,000 people in there. There's no library in Alexandra for those 200,000 people. There's not a single library. Where do I find a book when survival is priority? I'm looking for something to salvage hope in this hell that's created by apartheid. I'm trying to save my humanity, because apartheid every day, as it's marching my parents naked out of bed and interrogating them in front of their terrified children, is teaching me to hate. Hatred is not innate in people, it is taught. A weekend when 10 people, a dozen people were murdered was considered a quiet weekend. So you can imagine what a loud weekend was like. And when she gets to school, she tells the principal, she says, he's already a gang member. He says, I know, most of them are. You know. But she says, I want him to stay here because I'm going to use money for food that's supposed to last us a week to pay his school fees. So he better stay here. She points to the biggest cane. She says, use that on him if he runs and rejoins the gang. My mother. But that was love. That was love, because that's what saved me, that tough love. I'd visit the cemetery and said, oh, this was my best friend, this was my next best friend, and I would be here. But for that woman dragging me to school. Where do I find the book? And as would happen, her mother, Granny, works in one of these places, which are like forbidden zones. They're almost like distant planets. And yet there were stones thrown away across the highway. She says, I work for a British family that don't fully believe in apartheid, but they have a spoiled brat. He's got a room full of books than you have in your whole school. She's describing a boy in paradise. But this boy lives in the white world, and the only white person I've seen up to that point is a policeman. Under apartheid, it was not sit in the back and in the front. It was a segregated black bus. My face is pasted to the window. And I cannot believe, we are literally like, 2-3 miles away from Alex. It's almost like in a dream. I'm staring at the magazine and she's wondering, why am I staring? It's a tennis magazine. On the cover is a black man. She starts to glowing. She's talking about a black man with such respect. I'm saying, who's this magician? What did he do to earn this respect? I had seen something that gangs kill you for. My uncle said, I'll protect you from them as long as you promise me that you will master English and tennis. Through tennis, I was beginning to make the friendships that I could never have made. And one of them, of course, led to that big tournament in Ellis Park, where I was the only black. I had left a mob burning the township to play tennis. And they said, if you come back, you are dead. I said, Mom, I've got to go. I just feel, but he says, but you lost. I said, no, I've got to go. I just want to watch. And it was on that day that I met my destiny. I stumbled upon one of my favorite players, who happens to be Arthur Ashe's friend, Stan Smith. On the bleacher, watching him and Bob Blatt's practice is his wife, Margie. She looks at me, I look at her, and she smiles. And she says, come, Literally, that human gesture saved my life. When I got back home, I realized that the one library that had been built by efforts of a group called the Black Sash, because it had been housed in a government compound, was burning. I said, Mom, I want to save the books. She says, let me pray. And so I said, okay, fine, Mom, go ahead, pray. She prayed. She says, oh, you can go now. And I went. And yes, I can hear the bullets, I can hear, etc. But my thoughts is on the book. So you can imagine when you've had that experience and through it and a little luck, you end up in a place like America, where there is a library almost in every community. That's what books were doing for me. They were showing me possibilities where I thought there were dead ends. The only liberator is knowledge and the ability to harness its power. I remember when I read the Declaration of Independence clandestinely in a shack under candlelight. And then I heard these truths are self-evident, that all men are created equal. I could not believe that there would be a nation dedicated to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because I was in the middle of hell. People just don't realize how miraculous it is to just wake up and turn on the lights, and you slept on a bed, you go into the kitchen, there's food in the fridge, and you think that, oh, this is by miracle? No, it's by effort. It's by somebody worked for it. And it is these values that I feel are so important to teach to our children and grandchildren. And the only way they can learn that is when they have access to books that are not censored, where they will see everything, and those books must be chosen by their parents. They must know the truth because it's what will set them free. It is the books that I hope will encourage them to read and to be curious, to ask the questions, and above all, that we will do everything to protect the teachers who challenge them, and we will make sure that in the end, we believe in every child. Thank you.
I was curious as to how your birth country has changed today.
The one thing that I want people to understand is that most black South Africans are still suffering. And many of them worse than they did under apartheid. I say this with a sad heart, but that's the truth. And one place where that's happening is where I was born. If I told you that in that place, which is 1 square mile still, there are now close to 500,000 people, you wouldn't believe it. To bring Coco, my mom, it took me 15 years. 15 years to bring her and my siblings, 6, sisters and a brother, because I wanted them to have an education here in America. It took me 15 years. One of the things that she asked after I brought her here, after those 15 years, she said, my son, where can I go and learn to read? And she was 62. And, I just know people were listening with their heart, You know,
Your
and that,
message
yeah,
is what everybody needs to hear.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. I spoke from the heart, you know, and I just hope people understood that it was an affirmation of being human
Yes,
and having
absolutely.
been lucky to save my humanity in a place like that.